Hi beauties, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you haven't been here before, my name is Hannah. Welcome. Thank you for joining us here today. Today's video is going to be episode 1 of my Hannah's How-To series. Today's episode is going to be focused on eyeshadow how-to. I'm going to be giving you a rundown on how I do my eyeshadow, giving kind of full in-depth details of each step, and I will also be giving you some tips and tricks of how I do it so that you can kind of use them to help you if you need help in that area. So if that sounds like something that you would be interested in, then just keep on watching. Please do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are not already. Like this video if you enjoy it. Leave me a comment down below and click that post notification bell so that you get notified every time I upload a brand new video. Let's go ahead and get started. I did go ahead and do my brows already, and I just cleaned up under them with a little bit of concealer, not too much. And I didn't bring that any further down. I just kind of left it under the brow because I'm going to use an actual eyeshadow primer for my lid. I don't like using concealer anymore to prime my lid. I used to do that, but I don't do that anymore. Because it causes a lot of creasing and it's really heavy on the lids, and it can also be really hard to blend shadows on top of that because it's not made for that. Concealer isn't made to prime your eyes. It's made for your face and under your eyes. So in my opinion, one of the biggest parts in getting your eyeshadow to look the way that you want it to is going to be an eyeshadow primer. It doesn't have to be super expensive. It doesn't have to be a certain kind. This one is just one I got in a BoxyCharm and I've been really liking over my other one that I use. This one is by xoxo and it's Eyeshadow Fix Matte Longwear. And it doesn't really have a shade name. It's just matte on the lid, so it's basically kind of like a flesh toned one, a little bit lighter than flesh tone, and it's not too sheer but not too like full coverage, so it's kind of right in between, and I really like it that way. So yeah, that's my first tip basically, is to not use concealer as a base. Use an eyeshadow primer because that's going to work out the best for you to be doing the eyeshadow look and have it turn out the way that you want it to. The shadows are going to blend better, there's not going to be creasing, stuff like that. In my opinion, using a concealer as your eyeshadow base is kind of like an influencer thing, I guess you could say. I feel like a lot of people on YouTube do that, and I'm not shading anyone, but that's just the truth. A lot of people, a lot of YouTubers do that, and for me personally, I did used to do that. I mean, probably in some of my other videos you can see that I've done it, but for the past few weeks I've been kind of trying to steer away from that and get back into using eyeshadow primers, because that really does make a world of difference in your eyeshadow look. So that's my first tip. Use an eyeshadow primer and not concealer. So I'm going to go ahead and go in with this. I'm just going to take a little bit on the back of my hand and then use a brush to put it on the lids. I'm just taking a flat brush. It's an eye shading brush, but it's kind of flat and a little bit dense, but not too dense, because I don't want to pack it too much on the lid. And as you can see, it still adds a little bit of coverage, but it's, for the most part, not super full coverage. So that's how I like mine. You can get ones that are more full coverage or ones that are more sheer. It's whatever you prefer. My lids are pretty discolored, so I do like one that has a little bit of coverage, just so that it covers that up and gives me like a clean slate to work off of. And the veins on my eyes are pretty prominent too. I don't know if you can tell. I think you can right there, so I want to be able to cover that up. Another thing I want to mention is usually I will do my base makeup first and then I do my eyes. Today I'm not going to do that because I want you to be able to just focus in on what I'm doing on the eyes, and I don't want to have to be super careful with what I'm doing. Recently I've been really liking doing my eyes first and then doing my base makeup because it doesn't like constrain you. When you have your base makeup on first, you kind of have to be more careful when you're doing your eyeshadow look because you don't want any fallout or anything like that. You don't want to get it like outside of the perimeters of your eyes, because then you'd have to go in and clean that up and it just turns into a big thing. So I personally have been really liking doing my eyes first. I used to do that and then I stopped because I got lazy, and now I'm doing it again. So for my second tip, I would say do your eyes first, then your base, especially if you're just starting out in makeup. I personally know that that helped me a lot when I first started out trying to learn, doing the eyes first, because then I could kind of fix what I needed to, or say the look that you're trying to do turns out terrible or doesn't turn out exactly how you wanted it, you can take it off and try again without having to take off an entire face of makeup, you know, or try and take it off and mess up the face makeup that you already did. So that's just a little tip. If you want to do your base first, then by all means you can, but I just feel like it helps if you don't do your base first. So with that eyeshadow primer, I'm not going to set it before I start on the eyeshadow look. Some makeup artists, influencers, whatever, do set the eye primer or concealer, if they're using that, with a like translucent powder or a like eyeshadow, a light flesh tone eyeshadow. But I'm not going to do that because one thing that I notice is it's easier to blend shadows on top of a kind of tacky base. Plus the color will pay off more. It's going to stick to that tacky base better. If you set with powder, then you're putting powder on top of powder, and it's a little bit harder to blend, and it's also going to possibly turn out patchy. If it works for you, then it works for you. I'm not telling you what you should and should not do. I'm just giving you my tips on how I get good eyeshadow looks and stuff that you should try if you want to. So I'm not an expert in this or anything like that. I know a little bit. I don't know everything, but I am just saying, in my personal opinion, don't set the lid and it'll turn out a little bit better. You're gonna have to work a little bit harder to blend because it's a tacky base, but it's gonna be worth it because then you'll get that blend that you want. It'll be seamless and it'll be a really, really nice gradient rather than it being like patchy or anything like that. So first step, eyeshadow primer. Second step, don't set your lid with a powder. So I'm going to be using two different palettes today. I want to kind of pull a couple different colors out of each of them, and I couldn't decide on just using one. This is something I also do, even if it's just a neutral eye. Sometimes I'll pull colors from different palettes because there are some palettes where some colors work better than others. Formula can sometimes be inconsistent, especially when you're working with different textures like matte or matte with sequin or you know, foiled shades or metallic, stuff like that, glitter. So different palettes have different textures, different formulas in each shadow. So some I like and some I don't like as much, but it really just depends. Both of these palettes though, I love the formula of all of the shadows in them, but some shadows in both of these palettes have like more pigmentation than others. So that's why I wanted to use kind of both, and also different kind of colors. So one is going to be the Jaclyn Hill palette volume 2. This is with Morphe, and then the other one is the Manny MUA Glam palette, also with Morphe. So the first thing I like to do is start with deepening up the outer corner. This is obviously a little bit different than what a lot of other people do. A lot of YouTubers and makeup artists actually start with a transition shade, which, if you guys don't know, the transition shade is basically what you go in with to kind of set the tone of what your eye is going to like look like. It transitions into the other shades. So usually it's a shade that's a little bit darker than your skin tone if you're doing like a neutral eye, or if you're doing like a colorful eye, it's whatever is going to be kind of the goal that you're blending into. So say you're doing like a pink eye, you probably would use like a light pink shade for your transition tone because you're going to be blending into that using like a gradient. I used to do that. Don't really do that anymore unless I'm like being like really fast about it. Usually I start with a deep shade on the outer corner, blend that out, and then I will take the transition shade and just kind of buff everything in. I don't know why, I just like doing it that way. So the first shade I'm going to start out with is How in the Manny MUA palette. It's this brown one right here, and I'm taking that on a Morphe M456 brush. So I'm just going to take some of that on the brush. I'm not going to take a lot. I like to build up my color so that you're not going in super pigmented at first. It's easier to build up than take away. So you want to start light, build it up, rather than starting off with a whole bunch and then it's super pigmented and you don't know what to do with that color. You have nowhere to blend it out to because it's so much. So taking a little bit of that. Let me zoom you guys in so that you guys can like see what I'm doing better. Okay, we are zoomed in. So I'm just going to take that brown house shade and I'm taking it on the outer corner right here. In your outer corner, I'm sure all of you know this, you want to use a deep shade so that you're kind of pulling your eye out. So I just place the color there. Okay, now what I'm doing, without adding any more color on my brush or anything like that, I'm just going to take whatever's left on the brush and just start to blend. So I'm using the very bottom of the brush, the tip of it, and going like straight out, and I'm going to move my hand further down the brush. What a lot of people make mistakes with, this isn't just eyeshadow, this is just makeup in general, they hold the brush really far down. When you hold the brush really far down, you are putting more pressure. You're applying more pressure because your hands are farther down. So when you're applying more pressure, that gives you the risk of an uneven blend because it's not going to be like smooth and like light-handed. It's going to be heavy. So you're getting kind of like this rubbing against the eye. And if your brush is doing this, the blend is going to be really inconsistent and it's going to be darker in some areas, lighter in the other. So that's just like the simplest way to put it. If you want like that really good blend and you are okay with spending that little bit of extra time, then hold the brush farther down and just blend it really softly. Blending is as it sounds. You're blending something out, so you don't need to be super harsh with it. You want to be super light so that you get that nice blend, that nice gradient. So that's just another tip. When you are blending, move your hand farther down on the brush so that you can blend very lightly and don't like rub or anything like that. And I'm going to take it a little bit in, just right there to the middle.
Not any further.
But I want to keep most of the darkness on the outer part. Okay, so I just want to show you guys what it looks like. Most of the darkness is still right here in this spot, but I blended it out. You see a little bit of a gradient. You see that nice blend. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other eye. And when I'm blending, just so you guys know, I'm using a mix between windshield wiper motions and circle motions. You certainly don't have to blend a certain way, but it definitely helps if you're kind of keeping it consistent. But it really doesn't matter. I just want to let you guys know just in case you're wondering. Okay, now that that's pretty much blended out, I'm just going to take a bigger brush, and this is a Sonia Kashuk brush. It's a tapered crease brush. So I'm going to take the transition shade now and blend this all out and kind of build up the color in the inner crease of the eye. So I'm taking the Jaclyn Hill palette for this one, and I'm going in with this shade right here. It's called Comfort Zone. So I'm just going to take a little bit of that, not too much. And I'm just going to tap off the excess because it is a bit powdery. And then I'm going to blend this shade that I already have on the lid out. And I'm just starting out here because that's where you want most of your color. You want to place the brush initially where you want the most color. And I do take my transition shade and just take it up into the brow right here at the front. I just feel like that gives a really nice opened eye effect. Now that that transition shade is placed and blended out, I am going to take a color that is a little bit darker than that Howl shade I used on the outer corner. I'm taking that on the same brush that I used for the Howl shade, the Morphe M456, and I just want to deepen up that outer corner just a smidge more. So I'm taking this Temptress shade in the Jaclyn Hill palette. It is a black shade, so I'm going to use a very, very, very small amount of this. I don't want it too deep. Literally just a dab, literally that's it. And then I'm even going to dab some off on my hand so that's not too much. That's a good trick when you're going in with a super dark color, so that you're not placing too much initially and you place it and you're like, what have I done? Go ahead and just tap some off on your hand, and that way you know that there's not too much color on that brush now when you go in, and you can kind of build it up from there. So I'm just taking a little bit of that and I'm placing it just really, really, really tight on the outer corner, and I'm just kind of wiggling my brush in there just so I can get it like right up under that crease right there. And then of course we'll blend that out, but right now I'm just placing it. And a good thing about when you're like placing this in the crease and you're kind of like tapping it in like this, it's already gonna kind of start to blend itself out. I'm going to go ahead and just take that same brush that we used for the transition shade, the Sonia Kashuk brush, and blend this out very lightly because I don't want to take it all over the eye. I just want to kind of keep it in that same place, but still blend it out. Now I'm going to cut the crease. I'm just going to take some more of that eyeshadow primer that I used to prime my lids earlier. Take that same brush and just take a little bit of it on my hand and cut out the shape that I want. So the first thing I'm going to do is just take this brush, whatever excess product is left on it, the Sonia Kashuk brush, and just tap over where the cut crease ended, just so that we can just kind of get rid of that harsh line that's there and kind of blend that. Okay, so I think I'm going to take Drama Queen. It's this shade right here. This one out of the Jaclyn Hill palette, and this is what it looks like. And then I think I'm going to take this shade just to kind of top over it, and it's Scorpio. this one out of Manny MUA's palette. Okay, so I'm going to just take that on my finger. So I'm taking Drama Queen, getting a good amount on my finger, and just pressing that onto the lid. Look at how stunning that is. It's got like a pink undertone, which I really, really like. Okay, I've kind of placed that kind of messily. I'm just going to take a Morphe M124, grab some on the brush. I'm gonna spray it so it sticks a little bit better. It's a little more glittery than I thought it would be. It's swatched like really pigmented, but then when it goes on, it's a little bit more like translucent, kind of like you can still kind of see through it. But I don't mind. And then I'm gonna take that Scorpio shade out of the Manu MUA palette right there and just kind of place that on top of it just to give it a little bit more of a shine. Okay, I went ahead and deepened the outer corner just a little bit more with that black. Now I'm just taking a brown liner and I'm going to use that as my eyeliner today. Okay, now that that's kind of placed on, I'm going to take a small brush and just kind of blend that out. I'm going to take a Morphe M124. This is a different one than the one I used previously, and just kind of smoke this out. Okay, now I'm going to go do my face makeup, pop on a lash, and then we'll do the lower lash line. Okay guys, so I am so sorry. I truly apologize for this. But earlier when I filmed this video, I was getting ready to go to a function afterwards, and I did not have time before I left to film the rest of the video. So where I last left off was I finished the top portion of the eye, was going to go pop on the lash, lip, everything like that, the face, and then show you guys what I did on the lower lash line. I didn't have time to do that before I left, so I'm just going to explain what I did. I took a small brush. It was this brush. It's a eyeshadow brush by Billion Dollar Brow. It looks like this. I took this shade right here out of the Jaclyn Hill palette. It is called G Money right here. And I just shaded that on the lower lash line. And then I took a thin brush, and it was this brush right here, a Morphe M124. I believe I used this earlier in the video, but this was a clean one. And I took the black shade, the Temptress shade, and I used that black to just kind of tight line close to my lash line. And of course just kind of blended that with the Billion Dollar Brow brush. So it turned out like this. Obviously it doesn't look that great now because I went a whole day wearing it, but that's just kind of what I did. I just kept it simple and I just smoked it out a little bit. Obviously when you're doing the lower lash line, it's not going to be as intricate as the main eyeshadow on the top of your lids, so it's just really simple for the lower lash line. Don't really have any tips for that. It really just varies on the lower lash line what kind of look you're doing. For me, obviously I was doing kind of a neutral look, so I just used that black to tight line, blended it out with that brown neutral shade, so nothing too crazy. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, definitely leave it in the comments down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video of me kind of doing my first how-to video. This is going to be episode 1 of my Hannah's How-To series. This one I feel like is going to be a little bit of a longer one. I wanted to kind of keep them short just because it's like a simple video, but eyeshadow is a long process and there's a lot of kind of steps to it and different kind of rules that you can use. Well, not necessarily rules, but like different tips. So I just wanted to let you guys know that there will be more of these for different steps. I plan on doing a video for each step of the makeup routine. I wanted to go in order of like steps of the makeup routine, but that didn't really happen that way. I just ended up doing eyeshadow first because I feel like that's maybe like the most complicated. But if you guys have any suggestions on which one I should do next, what step that you want to see me do like a how-to on, and give like tips on how I do it or anything like that, let me know down in the comment section below. Otherwise I will just kind of start at the beginning with like priming or something like that. Okay, so I'm really tired. I have been up since 8 this morning. I only got 3 hours of sleep last night and it is already almost 3 in the morning. So I'm going to bed. If you guys enjoyed this video, please click that big like button for me. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are not already. I would really appreciate it and it would help me out a lot. Click the post notification bell so that you get notified every time I upload a brand new video, and then leave me a comment down below with any questions, concerns, comments, literally anything. Just leave it down below. Don't forget to follow my socials. My Instagram and Twitter are just at @HannahB_beauty with 2 Y's. My Facebook is @HannahBBeauty, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye, beauties.